Hello everybody, this is Keza here, bringing you another Wacky Strat Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking about the Imprison Transform combo. Now, for those of you who don't know, Imprison is a move that seals out all of your opponent's moves. Imprison does actually update with the user's attacks, so for this strategy, all you have to do is successfully use the attack Imprison, then the attack Transform in succession. Whatever you turn into, all of their attacks will be denied. So, if you turn into your opponent's Kangaskhan, for example, all of your opponent's Kangaskhan's moves, not only will that Kangaskhan not even be able to use them, but any Pokemon on your opponent's team that also shares that Kangaskhan's moves, so for example, Earthquake, Protect, Sucker Punch, Fake Out, gone. They will not be able to use it as long as your imprisoned transform Pokemon exists on the battlefield. Now, as you can imagine, this would be a very, very difficult combination to pull off, despite how incredibly simple it may sound. Mostly because the only Pokemon that can learn both Imprison and Transform is Smeargle. However, there is actually something unique to Imprison. Imprison is actually snatchable by the attack Snatch. So, for example, you can have a Mew that knows Snatch, it snatches Imprison and then uses Transform itself. Of course, this would be at the expense of the original Pokemon using Imprison on that turn. As a result, the most common way to successfully pull off this combination is if you manage to put your opponents to sleep with Dark Void first, then proceed to pull off your combo. Mimic is also preferred use here, because you can use Mimic to mimic Transform without actually using Transform on that turn. So you take it and you learn it. So, for example, you could use Mime Jr. here. If you put both of your opponents to sleep, and then copycat their Imprison, and then mimic their Transform, you have to spend one more turn using that Transform, sure, but you can at least safely go into that. And there's just kind of a lot of ways to play around this. However, the greatest flaw to this is you can't successfully pull off this combination if you are taunted, so please be wary of that if you ever try going into battle with this strategy. Another way this can also fail is if your opponent can't go to sleep or can't get a status condition with Safeguard, things of that nature. Mostly, though, the biggest problem you will be dealing with in this strategy, due to the fact that your primary effects are going to be using non-offensive attacks, is Taunt. Taunt will be your greatest enemy, so try and make sure that you either have Magic Bounce, Fake Out, or a Taunt Prankster Pokemon of your own to defend your team to ensure that it doesn't go down the tubes so quickly. Once you pull off this team in succession, it basically permanently locks out the Pokemon you transformed into, but only as long as the Pokemon you used in Prison still remains in the game. So, though the Pokemon you transformed into is trapped into struggle, essentially, as long as you are around, if you get knocked out, they'll be able to use all of their attacks again. It's a strategy that is most difficult to pull off in triple battles, but it can work fairly well in singles and double battles. This at least allows it to have a multifunctioning purpose, so depending on how you want to play will depend on how you build your team to use this strategy. Still, be very aware of where your flaws and strengths are, and don't forget that when you transform you only get 5 power points of each of your opponent's moves. So you only get a max amount of 20 turns before you yourself are also locked into struggle. So please, when doing this strategy, you have to be extremely aware of your limitations in order to truly shine with your strengths and sweep your opponent with their own Pokemon. One other thing, if you do end up running into that struggle problem, Transform itself actually resets. So if you switch out and come back in, you can actually set up the Imprison Transform again, and you have 20 PP all over again, because that 20 PP does not suddenly get dropped automatically to 0 every time you transform afterwards. It resets. I hope this video was helpful on using this rather interesting strategy. Thank you for watching, and until next time.